Hi, everybody. So it's Kelly and Devashri, and we are here on the eve of the full moon. So we're going to have a beautiful full moon in Leo tomorrow, and it'll be February 12th. And we find ourselves here in Mexico City. And it turns out we're on a magic trip preparing for the Choice Point Light Code. And I have a strong intuition and connection with my guides that this March and April of 2025, we're going to be facing personally and collectively some really big choices. And that's why we're working with the Choice Point Light Code. And tomorrow, being the full moon and being February 12th, is also 52 days from the winter solstice. And here in Mexico City and in the Mayan culture, 52 is a very powerful and potent and important number in relationship to their calendar. And we are fortunate enough that our itinerary synchronistically just happened to line up that we are in Teotihuacan, which I always pronounce incorrectly, tomorrow. And we haven't been there yet. And we're going to be in sacred ceremony with an incredible shaman and elder and learn a lot of wisdom from him. But we're dropping in to just share with you about this number 52. You want to share about that in the calendar. And then I want to talk to you about what we think is energetically coming up this year for us in 2025 and how we can start to prepare for it and what it is that we've been doing on this magic journey and this work that we've been doing together over the last 14 days in preparation for the Choice Point Light Code to support bringing you codes of energy and information that come from the indigenous ones. We particularly are focusing on the Mayan indigenous people and elders and shamans that we've met with and been in ceremony with. But all indigenous cultures and the prophecies showing us that we need to tune to what we're calling the organic timeline versus the artificial timeline and these different choice points that are going to show up for you around time and getting out of the enslavement of time and moving back into a more of an organic timeline where we are not enslaved by time. So let's have a little talk about first about tomorrow and the number 52 to the Mayans and what's happening, and then about time itself.
Yeah, I think what we are learning in our time here, speaking with the wise grandfathers and the shamans who've been really so full of wisdom. Um, and they've been trying to indicate to us that there is um, a level of wisdom that comes through the calendars, the Mayan system of understanding time. So the law of time that is understood by the indigenous beings is different from the way we function within the operations of time today. And so tomorrow is going to be an illustration of one such choice point, a point in time where the Solkin, which is their, sacred calendar, coincides with the Harp calendar, which is their long cycle calendar. So one of them represents 260 days in a year, which is a reflection of a lunar sequence of 13 months, right? It's a calendar that we don't follow today. And so when you look at it as, the solar and the lunar, so the Harp calendar refers to the 365 days. And every 52 years, the two calendars coincide, right? The lunar with the 13 months and the 260 days
Right.
coincides with the 365-day calendar. So that is the energy that we will receive, that intersection point tomorrow, by way of fractality, right? And the system of the law of time. So because tomorrow is the 52nd day and 52 is especially significant to the
Yes.
Mayans.
And so much of the work we've been doing, which has been really cool, is, well, we saw a jaguar, which is pretty amazing in the wild. But the jaguar is the energy of the mirror, and the mirror is really showing up in this process. And the mirror of 52 is also 25, which is this year. In addition to that, out of the 55 light codes that I downloaded several years ago, the choice point light code that we'll be doing in March is the 25th one that I have done, which is the mirror of 52 in relationship to this information that we're receiving from the Mayans. So what does this all mean for you? Is that I know a lot of people are feeling a lot of energy, that things are really intense, they're speeding up. And we talk a lot about, as we go through this massive shift and this change on the planet, that, you know, a lot of systems that are based in hierarchy are going to start to collapse and deconstruct. And we're going to move into a more of a grassroots frequency, a different energy that's much more organic. But we don't all, we talk about the education system collapsing or the financial system or government or medicine, and different ways that we've been programmed in a certain specific collective way of being. And as those dissolve and we move into more of a unified field, also our time is going to deconstruct and we're going to move back to an organic timeline. And so for many of us, me included, we find that we don't have enough time or that we're very rushed, that we've lost sight of the cycles and the rhythms of time, that we're always in a hurry, that we're working longer and longer hours, that we're exchanging our time for money, or we have to put in our time, and all of these belief systems that we have around time, that we don't have enough time, are really artificial constructs that are not necessarily in alignment with the organic timeline or with the indigenous way of being and the natural rhythms and cycles. And as part of this transition and metamorphosis that we're going through and these changes that we're going to be experiencing on the planet, this is a huge piece. And as artificial intelligence comes in stronger and stronger this year, and we go through many different changes, both artificial and organic, meaning changes on the planet, whether it be with climate change and the elements, political uprising, chaos, a lot of those energies are more tied into the construct of time and how we've perceived it to date. And as we move away from that and begin to realign with the natural rhythms of the organic timeline, that's when we're going to keep butting up against those choice points, right?
Yeah, and also the you know how we spoke to the shamans, and they always would remind us that um, in our biosphere, in nature, we as human beings are the only ones running in this system of time, right? The plants, the animals, they seem to be running on a natural level of uh, time,
Mhm.
and also they embody a natural spirituality, like which is a sense of being synchronous, right? In synchronicity with everything in the cosmos. They're also telepathic. They're able to communicate telepathically. The sunflower knows that it grows in a spiral. It just knows, right? No one tells the sunflower that. So there is this innate knowing. And I think that what Kelly is referring to as, the choice point of choosing to switch to the organic timeline, it has an automatic, in a sense, a reflective quality on our ability to bring in these qualities of synchronicity and telepathy. And telepathy is not just communication. We are understanding now that telepathy is time. It's the same thing as time, and biology is time as well. So our understanding of time, and the Mayans have this very deep understanding of the choice point, right? Because they lived within this law of time with complete synchronicity and with this inner knowing, this telepathic system. And we've seen over the past few light codes, right, how the hidden systems are being revealed. So as we switch, the original switch point was 2012, when humanity was to switch back to its natural system of time, which is why we are now experiencing such a large communication with the rainbow tribes and the indigenous people are coming to the fore, because that switch has already occurred in history. And
Yeah, and so what that means for you is that the potential to connect and communicate telepathically, not just with each other, with the animals, with the universe, with everything in your life, is just going to start to amplify. But if you're not paying attention and you're not on the organic timeline and you haven't made an intention to attune to that frequency, to choose, to have the choice point to make a decision, I am going to align with that flow of magic and synchronicity and be aware of the subtle signs and energies that are coming into your field that are giving you the opportunity to line up with that ascension timeline. It can be easy then to get really kind of, I guess you could even say kind of sucked in to an artificial timeline, because that same timeline, because of the polarities, is also going to be amping up and getting stronger and stronger. And in some ways, there's a lot of allure to the artificial timeline. Um, and in many ways, in some ways, it's easier and it's somewhat familiar. And so it takes we have to become conscious, awake, and aware, and notice and pay attention. And the simplest things in our life, when they start to show up, to recognize how incredibly powerful we are, and that the universe is just like so wanting us to listen and to pay attention to it, and wants to support us and help us. If we can just come into harmonization with that synchronic energy, that is part of that organic frequency, that indigenous frequency, that original frequency that we have unplugged from by being in the construct of this artificial time matrix. And so it can be as simple as, like, when we arrived here in Mexico a few weeks ago, we came into the Cancun airport and immigration was just like insane. I've never seen anything like it anywhere in the world. We couldn't even get down the escalators. There was no lines forming anywhere. I mean, just to get to the crazy line that would take a few hours, we couldn't find. Um, and so people could get into complete panic, it was just like insane. And so there's a few moments of that, and then there's an opportunity of like, oh, we can start to move this energy. This is all it is. It's just clogged energy. And so we started silently, both of us, doing different gestures, moving the energy, toning. There was so much noise, nobody even noticed, and things started to flow. And that's just one tiny example, and it's not a big deal, right? But if you're not attuned to that, you forget the potential of doing that. Or like yesterday, here's an example. We were at the Lady Guadalupe shop and I wanted to get something and they were like, no, it's sold out. And I was like, no, I don't want it to be sold out. It's okay. Like, I can align and harmonize with a timeline where that item that I need to come into residence with Lady Guadalupe, is there to support me. And I just sort of summoned it and then asked another clerk and just happened to appear. And so we've had many, many, many synchronistic things, much more powerful stories than those two, but where our intention of just starting to tweak things just a tiny bit and make a decision, okay, we can align with the synchronicity, with the flow, with the energy, and magnetize to us what is needed for us to be in that flow. Not that we're seeking it or changing it or forcing it, we're magnetizing it.
Yeah, and that is the energy of connecting with the pyramids, right? So it's like a remagnetizing of our energy fields. So when we switch to an organic system of laws of time, what they're saying is that, okay, so we have 260 days, which is a direct reflection of the 9 months of gestation for a human being. Or, when you talk about the 1320 calendar system, they have 13 because that's the 13 moon cycles in a year, which our bodies are attuned to, especially as women. You have 20, fingers and toes on which you can count your time physically. And there's all these um, systems that are mirrored in our body. So one of the clues to organic timing is to see if it reflects on the physical, like the biological functioning of human beings. And so what that does then is, like, we know that we have pyramids in our blood, right? We were
Right.
talking to the shamans, and we have these molecules inside of our blood that form pyramids. So we are actually technically made up of the electromagnetic Merkaba fields, inside of our body. And so when you shift to this organic timeline, you create synchronicity by way of remagnetizing your field,
Your
right?
field.
And you magnetize things to you. So it's all connected to,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
changing in
it's, yeah.
our biology, a reawakening the biology to align with the natural cycles.
So
And
time affects biology and
time
biology affects
affects
time.
time,
That's
and it then completely shifts your day-to-day experience and your life. And so if you're still, at a job that you hate or in a cubicle or trading time for money in a way where you're not expressing your purpose, your authenticity, your truth, your capacity to really align with nature, to be outside, for your passion to be growing, that is really an enslavement in the construct of an old paradigm of time. And it might be easy, might one say, oh, that's easy for me to say, you have bills to pay and so on. And I understand that, but simultaneously, it really requires a shift in consciousness and intention. And as more and more people are able to get on this timeline and make this choice point, because we collectively are all woven together in a beautiful fabric of humanity, it will lift those who are perhaps really caught in that matrix to be able to break free from it. And to all then together we ascend and break free from that artificial time matrix into this much more beautiful organic one. And it will mirror what's going on physically on a biological level in our body, in our light body, as it's being activated, as we're ascending, as we're receiving the codes from the sun, from the solar flares, from the primordial waters, from the inner earth, all of these different pieces and all of the light codes to date that have been transmitted that we've received continue to activate and prepare us to have the wherewithal, the consciousness, the awareness to notice that there is a choice point, and to notice how to make a choice and when to make the choice and how to attune to it and not fall back into old patterns. So this and so much more we're going to delve really deep into starting on March 3rd. And we love how the calendar works, that we have this beautiful full moon final thing here tomorrow, that the code begins on March 3rd, and it happens to end on the spring equinox, which is pretty epic. And so all of this is preparing us for this year and our future to make this choice to get on this higher timeline together. So we're pretty excited, right? We have a lot to share.
yeah.
Like, yeah. All right. So we just wanted to pop in here from Mexico. We couldn't do a regular Wednesday call today. So we're just gonna post this up on YouTube if anybody had the attention span to listen to the whole thing. I hope it was helpful for you guys. We love you. And anything else you wanna add?
Also, that we're going to be at the Pyramid of the Sun and the Moon tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
on the
that's
full
pretty on the
moon.
full moon, and this is what we're talking about, right? Like bringing the duality constructs into
Into
harmony.
harmony.
Mm.
And the harmonization point happens to be always coherence of harmony is within the heart. And tomorrow happens to be the full moon in Leo, and
Wow.
Leo is the heart.
Mm.
So it's all synchronistic and it's all perfect. And we'd love to share with you and get you on that higher timeline with us. We love you so much, and happy full moon, and talk soon. Okay. Bye, everybody.